Welcome to Summer Sunday Shorts. This is number 7, and there's only one more to go after this week.
A lot of you have kept up all summer long, watching each week and sending us messages with the key phrases. Thanks for sticking with us. If you've fallen behind, that's okay. Don't give up. You can go back and watch any of the previous videos and send us the phrases.
Considering everything that's going on in our world, we've had quite a busy summer. Many of you have been to our activities, and it was awesome having such great participation in summer servants last week. It's kind of funny how we can still find ways to stay busy even when the world is turned upside down.
That's right. Today we want to talk about not confusing doing that kind of church stuff with actually being a part of the church. It's dangerous to confuse going to church and church activities with actually living the Christian life. Don't be an almost, as I call it.
What does the word almost mean? Webster's dictionary defines it as very nearly, but not exactly or entirely. Things that are almost probably appear to the naked eye as completely being the thing they haven't entirely become.
Let's be brutally honest here. Some of us have the appearance of the Christian life down, but we all know being a Christian is more than just the outward stuff. Is it possible that we could be almost, but not entirely there?
I want to take a look at a story in the Bible of a couple of different almosts. First, I'd like for us to look at the book of Acts, where Paul has been arrested and is stating his case before Agrippa and Festus. The Jewish people were angry at him because he was teaching the truth about Jesus, and they wanted to put him to death for it. So here he is before the highest authorities in his area defending himself.
Indeed, I myself, though I must do many things contrary to the name of Jesus of Nazareth, this I also did in Jerusalem, and many of the saints I shut up in prison, having received authority from the chief priests. And when they were put to death, I cast my vote against them. And I punished them often in every synagogue, and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly enraged against them, I persecuted them, even to foreign cities. While thus occupied, as I journeyed to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests, at midday, O king, along the road I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shining around me and those who journeyed with me. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice speaking to me, and saying in the Hebrew language, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So I said, Who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting.
Therefore, having obtained help from God, to this day I stand, witnessing both to small and great, saying no other things than those which the prophets and Moses said would come, that the Christ would suffer, that he would be the first to rise from the dead, and would proclaim light to the Jewish people and to the Gentiles.
So Paul, in the course of making his defense with his life literally on the line, shares his story. He talks about Jesus and how he saved him. He talks about how Jesus intervened in his life and completely changed him. Now listen to how Festus and Agrippa respond to Paul's testimony.
Now as thus he thus made his defense. Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. Much learning is driving you mad. But he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak the words of truth and reason. For the king before whom I also speak freely knows these things. For I am convinced that none of these things escapes his attention, since this thing was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you do believe. Then Agrippa said to Paul, You almost persuade me to become a Christian. And Paul said, I would to God that not only you, but also all who hear me today might become both almost and altogether such as I am, except for these chains.
Festus thinks that Paul is crazy. Festus isn't a Jew, so he hasn't grown up learning the law and the prophets. This is all foreign to him. Agrippa, though, is a Jew. He had grown up learning about these things.
Paul makes a case for how Jesus is the fulfillment of everything Agrippa was taught to hope for growing up. And it almost works. He says, You almost got me. You almost persuaded me to become a Christian. Almost.
We don't know what happened after this with Agrippa. But if this is the last time he heard or thought about it, then he died as an almost. Presumably, He remained unsaved because almost doesn't cut it. And that's why Paul says that he hopes that he and everyone else will not just be an almost, but be altogether like him.
Agrippa had the opportunity. He had heard the truth. He had observed the commotion in Israel after Jesus was raised from the dead. Surely he must have heard whispers and rumors of the work Jesus did while he was alive and after he was resurrected. He was told plainly by Paul all about it. None of that seemed to convince him. Perhaps he wanted to believe, but couldn't because he was afraid of the fallout. We don't know. We just know he was just an almost, not an altogether.
An almost may believe something about Jesus. They may have an inkling to believe, but they don't actually put their faith in Jesus.
Another prime example of this is Judas. Judas believed something about Jesus. He was a zealot, meaning he wanted to overthrow the Roman rule in Jerusalem. Some believe that he betrayed Jesus not because he no longer believed in him, but because he wanted to force Jesus' hand. He may have thought that putting Jesus in a position to be killed would force him as the Messiah to fight back, overthrow Roman rule, and set up his kingdom right then and there.
Of course, Jesus didn't fight back. He went silently to the cross because that's why he came. He came to pay the penalty for our sin. Observing Jesus' reaction to being betrayed, look at how Judas responded in Matthew's account of the gospel.
Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. And they said, What is that to us? You see to it. Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed, and went and hanged himself.
Judas felt remorseful and regretful for what he had done. He knew that Jesus was innocent. He knew what he had seen in Jesus when he walked with him. He saw Jesus heal people, calm the seas, quiet the storms, and do the impossible over and over again. He heard what Jesus had said about himself. And having seen and heard all that he said and all that he did, there would be no reason for Judas to doubt him.
I believe that Judas felt regretful because he had a pretty good idea of just who it was that he had betrayed. He had every opportunity to know who Jesus was, but he didn't really know him. He got so close, but he died an almost.
Don't be an almost. We want you to send us a message, but not right away. We want you to pray about it, consider it, seek God. If you feel like it after praying and after considering that you're not an almost, then send one of us this message. I am not an almost.
But if you're not sure about it, don't send it. Just send us a message saying that you watched the video, and that will count towards the prize. Pick up your phone and call one of us. Let's talk about it if we need to. Like Paul, it is our hope that everyone here would be not just an almost, but be one who has full faith in Jesus as God and is completely his.
That's it for this week's Summer Sunday Shorts. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll join us next week for our final lesson.